What's going on, guys? Today's video is going to talk a little bit about how to build the side delts using a variation of exercises. And over the years, I've experimented with different things in my own training, tried out different exercises, different training programs, and found out what works best for me. So I want to share that with you guys. So it's been years and years of putting in work, and the learning never stops. I'm always trying to educate myself more and more and learn new tips and tricks and then share it with you guys. So I hope you enjoy the video. What's going on, guys? So this video is going to focus on building up the side delts using variations of the lateral raise. And I know you see me pressing right here. That's because I do want to make a point that if you're doing any kind of overhead pressing, you're going to be hitting all three heads of the delts. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to stick with lateral raises. So I do want to link up my buddy Jeff Nipper's video called How to Train the Lateral Delts, which gives great insight and some science and some tips on how to really work the lateral delts through a bunch of different exercises. So make sure to check that out. It will be linked in the description below. All right, so some quick anatomy on the deltoid muscle. You have the anterior, medial, and posterior delts. So there are three heads to this muscle, also known as the front delts, side delts, and rear delts. What we're focusing on here is going to be the lateral or the medial or the middle or the side head of the deltoid. So the picture you see on the left highlighted in green is the entire shoulder muscle, and on the right in orange is what we're focusing on, and that's the lateral head of the delt. It has a couple of functions. One of them is it performs shoulder abduction when the shoulder is internally rotated, which is what we'll be focusing on. It performs shoulder transverse abduction when the shoulder is externally rotated, and it's involved in shoulder flexion when the shoulder is internally rotated. Again, our main focus right now is to look at shoulder abduction through lateral raise exercises and variations. So to keep it simple, we're just focusing on shoulder abduction or abduction, and that's a lateral movement away from the midline of your body. So think about moving your upper arm to the side and away from your body, which is typically seen in a lateral raise. So we're going to show you some exercises and talk about some variations you can include in your training. So let's start with what everyone knows, and that's just your standing dumbbell lateral raise. And you'll notice I'm doing these a lot more strict than you would see most people do them in the gym. Now, I do think there's a time and a place for controlled cheating, which I'll show in just a minute. But you could see here is I'm really trying to focus on form. There's a little bit of sway forward, and then you also see me leaning slightly forward just because I feel more activation in my delts doing it that way. But you also notice a slight pause at the top, and I would suggest doing at least some reps or 1 or 2 sets this way so you really activate those delts and let them work. And then when you want to go a little bit heavier or you start to fatigue, you can introduce some controlled cheating, which is what you see here. So I'm using some extra momentum to help me get more reps in or maybe get a little bit more weight in, but don't compromise form completely if you're not targeting the muscle. So now that you get an idea of how the lateral raise is performed, here are a couple of variations you can include in your training. You could do them chest supported on an incline bench to reduce the amount of momentum. You could do them seated down. Again, this is going to take a lot of that momentum out of it and keep the form a lot more strict. You might have to lighten a weight if you do it this way, but it's a great way to burn out your delts at the end of a session. And then of course you could do single arm lateral raises with the dumbbell. I would suggest holding on to something, obviously, so you don't fall over, and then leaning away a little bit as you see me doing here. And I think that this is another great way to target the delts and also correct any muscle imbalances or strength imbalances you might have if one side is stronger than the other. And if I were you, I would stay away from doing lateral raises with any kind of barbell. There's just no reason for it. So next up is just regular seated lateral raise machine, and I like to use this as a warm-up or a pre-activation to get my delts firing before my workout and also at the end of my workout as a burnout, mainly because I like that the form is kept extremely strict. So what I like to think about when I'm doing this is actually leaning forward slightly. So I'm driving my chest into that pad, and the reason I do this is to keep my elbows directly lateral to my body. So for some people, if you sit completely upright, it might feel a little bit awkward, and then as soon as you have that forward lean, you'll really feel your side delts working. So try this out. Things that I don't want to see and that you see a lot of people do is what you see right here is I'm shrugging my shoulders. So a lot of people will load this machine up with tons of weight and then compromise their form and take tension off of the muscle they're trying to hit by involving shrugging the traps or the upper back. Other things to think about when performing this movement is most of the time the machine will have a handle. I would recommend doing a few reps without the handle so you really feel your shoulder working. A lot of times you'll grip that handle and you'll start to flex your forearm and you'll take tension off of your delts. So I would say don't hold on to that handle. Keep an open palm and just feel your elbows lifting up and feel your delts firing every single rep. And the other thing to keep in mind is make sure that your arms have constant contact on that pad throughout the entire rep. And the last thing I want to talk about is the cable lateral raise and how you could benefit from changing your position mid-set to load different parts of the movement. So there are benefits that you can get from doing this that you can't get from a dumbbell or a machine. And I got a lot of this from Ben Pakulski's video where he talks about different force angles. So the first position, what you see here is not going across my body. I have the cable right to my side, and you could tell that in the beginning of the movement right there is no force being applied to my shoulder. And this is very similar to a dumbbell. There's very little force at the bottom of the movement, and as you lift your arm higher, the force increases to a certain point, and then beyond that point, it's going to get easier. So now what we're going to do mid-set is spin around and load a different part of the range. So now you see the cable is coming across my body. So the beginning movement is going to be the hardest, whereas before when I was turned the other way, that was the easiest and there was little to no force being applied. So again, so you can have a look, when the cable is on my right-hand side, the force at the bottom is very minimal. And then when I go ahead and turn around and it's coming across my body, it's a lot harder. So I'll definitely recommend trying this out. And again, like we did earlier, you can change your body position. So if I was to go ahead and step further away from that cable stack, I'm increasing the resistance going away from me. So now at the bottom range is going to be even more difficult than if I was closer to the cable stack. So I hope that makes sense. The further away you are when you're going across the body, the harder it's going to be from the beginning of the movement. So here's what we're trying to do. We're starting out by overloading the shortened end of the range first. So standing close to the cable, not going across your body. After we fatigue that, we're going to go ahead and spin around, letting the cable come across our body. And now we're focusing on overloading the lengthened or the mid range of this movement. So it's going to be much harder from the beginning. And as we lift higher, it's going to get a little bit easier. Now, I know some people aren't comfortable doing lateral raises this way. They tend to get a bit of a shoulder impingement. So one thing you can do is experiment with doing cable lateral raises behind your back. It's still going to be the same thing as far as the workout goes where you're loading different ranges, but it just might be more comfortable for you going behind your body instead of across the front of your body. So definitely try this out. Let me know what you guys think. Again, remember, you can step further away from that cable stack to make it more difficult at different ends of the range. So that is going to conclude today's lateral raise video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it made sense. If you enjoy these types of videos or you're more interested in different muscle groups or full workouts for specific muscles, let me know. I'd be more than happy to put something together for you guys. If you did enjoy it, please feel free to click that thumbs up button. That always helps me out. And if you think someone else can get some value from this video, go ahead and share it. So thanks again, guys, and we'll talk to you all in the next one.